Okay, how South Africa's most biggest taxi boss met his end. Shit, now I wonder what's going on here. Talking about taxi boss, you know him Zanzi, bro. When it's taxes involved, it's taxes involved. But yeah, man, let's just get into the video and see what's going on. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, stay tuned for more videos because we're finna drop consistently. Road to 1,000 subscribers. Currently we're on 600 and something, I don't know. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, dog. Let's get to the video.
Kwanele Mix Makwanza was the loud, steady heartbeat of Soweto's restless taxi world, and whenever people whispered his name on hot afternoons, even the most crowded ranks fell suddenly quiet. He drove a bright silver Audi TT, windows down and music thumping, that shone like both a promise and a warning each time it crossed any dusty street. Every smooth ride behind that wheel showed his power, because flashy cars like that do not roam township roads unless their owner fully controls the ground beneath them. Tall bodyguards rode close, forever scanning mirrors, and their hard eyes told drivers and street traders that any careless mistake near their boss would bring quick, heavy pain. Inside that small, shiny car, heavy silence followed him, proving that raw fear can fit into leather seats, glide on alloy rims, and haunt every corner it passed. But on that fateful day, everything didn't go as he had planned before setting out. There was a loud bang before the final silence. Years earlier, Makwanza was just a rank marshal, with dusty shoes and sharp eyes, rising before dawn and watching fares like a hungry hawk counts chicks on hard, dry ground. He soon learned that fear is louder than price, so he sent rough boys to block rival minibuses at busy stops until route chiefs begged for late-night talks they could never win. Each ruthless win brought a new corner. Each corner poured fresh cash, and that cash bought more muscle that pushed his growing empire.
Look at that. Look at those. Look at that paper, bro. 200 rand, but shit. I don't lie. Money. They say money don't bring happiness, but bro, we know that's not true, bro. We know you can't live without money in this world, bro. Yes, it comes with problems, but it also comes with happiness, bro. I won't even lie, bro. You can't live without money, bro. You're telling me you can live without money, like you can survive. Nah, bro. That's not true. That is not true. But hey, if you do things like this here taxi stuff, you're always gonna have a bad ending. Obvious, bro. If you know you're in the mafia or what, you know, bro, the circumstances.
Poured fresh cash, and that cash bought more muscle that pushed his growing empire wider and faster with every breaking dawn. Soon, passengers, police, and small shop owners paid silent fees just to breathe easy, because his men wrote the daily rules with their ready fists. Whispers said he also shifted pills and powder after dark, hiding goods in taxis like rolling vaults, though no court paper has ever proved that claim to this day. When one bold driver spoke out about high-rank fees, he found his tires slashed and his keys vanished before icy sunrise. A quiet warning that every other driver heard loud and clear. Local councilors invited him to smoky late-night meetings, knowing city budgets would fail without his nod, while even church leaders prayed for peace they could no longer create. Taxi lanes became thin trenches, where loyalty was measured in long miles and fresh bruises, and every steering wheel carried the daily weight of his dark side. Street vendors, spaza shops, and even barbers paid weekly tribute because one angry story about a burned stall travels faster than any police car. Under his iron rule, fear walked openly beside money, and nobody in Soweto could tell where one ended and the other began anymore. Despite all this reach, he never sat alone in a public eatery, never queued in a simple bank line, never showed a full smile for any camera lens. He kept two homes, one gated with bright steel spikes, the other tucked behind a rusty tire yard, and nobody outside his circle knew which bed he truly favored at night. Reporters chased him for years to catch a clean photo, but guards raised umbrellas and engines roared away, leaving only blurred, grainy shapes in late-night news clips. Children in the township streets called him Ghost King because he was everywhere and nowhere, living proof that raw power can hide in plain sight. Yet every deep mystery grows enemies, and as his legend swelled, so did the long list of people waiting for the silence after his final breath. By the sharp winter of 2024, even loyal drivers felt the city crack like thin ice under too much weight, and they sensed his shining armor growing slowly old. Rival bosses.
I mean, bro, my question is for these people, how do you enjoy, have fun, knowing that your money is dirty, bro? Knowing that your money is dirty, bro. It's not clean money, obviously. You feel me? How do you enjoy, bro? Especially people like who killed in order to get money, you check. How do you enjoy it? How do you sleep at night, bro? You gotta be cruel to do that. You gotta have some type of heart, bro. Stone heart. Damn, bro.
Whispered over cheap midnight coffee about a future without him, counting lost friends and unpaid debts as reasons to quietly sharpen new plans. Dealers in dark alleys began keeping one silent, special suitcase ready, the kind that closes only after destiny finally picks a side. Police intelligence noted daily chatter about a coming storm, but dusty paperwork moved slower than bullets, and their warnings inside locked drawers. All Soweto needed was one day, one corner, and one brave trigger. And the man who ruled through fear would finally learn what real fear feels like under the same bright African sun he once believed rose only for him that morning. The sun hung quietly over Meadowlands Zone 1 as Sunday moved like it always did, slow, warm, and filled with the sounds of distant radios and moving wheels. Kwanele Makwanza drove through those streets in his Audi TT, calm and alone, without the usual trail of guards that often followed his car like shadows. People saw him pass and stared, not because he waved or smiled, but because they always noticed when power moved by. It looked like any other day for the man who ruled Soweto's taxi empire. Routine, quiet.
It's like when someone has aura and someone walks past and that nigga don't even smile. It's just him. Like, people will look at him and be like, I wonder what is he up to now. It's like, yabo umuntu onesithunzi nje. Like, if you're known in the galley, dog, if you're known in the community that you run some type of sketchy business that brings you a whole lot of money, bro, people will look at you some type of way, and no one will have the guts to like approach you. No one will have the guts to approach you, even like just talk to you or even greet you. They'll just look at you walk past, bro.
Quiet, forgettable, but unknown to him, it would be the final ride of his life. Far behind him, moving steady through the same streets, a black sedan followed with silent patience, watching and waiting for one perfect second. The streets were wide, the air still, and the traffic light.
There's always someone that's gonna scout you, no matter how big you are, no matter how dangerous you are. There's someone that wants to take you down.
Enough for one clean shot to change everything. As Makwanza turned near Reverend Modus and Odendal roads, the quiet was broken by the sharp, thunderous crack of fire. Then there was a quick succession of that broke his window, his body, and the false sense of safety he had built up over years. The didn't stop. They sprayed the car until it was quiet again to finish what they came to do. Some people who were nearby fell to the ground, while others ran behind stalls and fences because they were so cold. Later, one man said it was like lightning without a storm, and other people said they knew right away it wasn't just another. When the dust and smoke cleared, the black sedan sped off, leaving only tire marks and a stunned silence behind. Makwanza's body was leaned forward in the Audi, and was seeping through his designer shirt and onto the leather seats. The man who used to make people afraid sat there in silence, broken and helpless. No one yelled warnings or demands, and there wasn't a shootout between groups. There was just one short, brutal act meant to someone. There were no bumps or rough edges, and the whole thing looked like it was carefully planned. Someone knew where he was going, what time he was going to be there, and how vulnerable he was going to be while driving alone. There were cameras in the area, but none of them caught faces or license plate numbers. It was like the streets had been told to be quiet. People in the area began to talk about how the weren't just brave, but may have also had help from someone close to Makwanza. As sirens finally screamed into the area, people remained quiet, eyes wide, afraid to speak, afraid to move. The ambulance crew loaded his lifeless body with speed, but everyone watching already knew he wouldn't make it. For years, he had been the storm walking through Soweto, making others bend to his rule. But that afternoon, on an ordinary street with no protection, the storm ended with cold precision. And though the had vanished, their message stayed behind, written in spent shells on warm tar. As the last stopped, screams filled the air, and fear spread through the streets of Meadowlands. Others hid behind vendor booths and ran away with their kids or phones in their hands. People ran in all directions. A brave group of people nearby took out their cameras and took pictures of the Audi TT's broken glass and far away.
Is this the real one?
Took out their cameras and took pictures of.
Shit, look how it looks, bro. Yo. And the driver's seat, they made sure, bro, the bullets go through. That hole. Those shots were to make sure bro's clear shot.
The Audi TT's broken glass and far away, police sirens screamed, and a crowd gathered around the car in tense silence. Within minutes, Makwanza's body was taken from the driver's seat and rushed to the hospital while police cleared the way. The medics inside the ambulance worked quickly to stop from his neck and chest. The group sped through traffic lights, trying to beat the clock that was already running out. At the hospital gates, more police blocked the road and waved people in the press away while doctors took over. But it was clear even behind those locked doors, with tools and skill on their side, that he was hurt too badly, and the damage had already been done. Kwaneli Makwanza was officially pronounced just before sunset. The news didn't spread slowly, it exploded. Morgue workers leaked the report before officials could issue a statement, and the images that followed showed a man torn apart by bullets. Social media filled with photos of the Audi, crime scene tape, and grainy clips of all shared within minutes. Every post carried questions no one could answer. Who did this, and who would take his place? Soweto didn't just lose a taxi boss, it lost the figure who had shaped fear into law. That same night, taxi ranks emptied out early as whispers moved faster than engines. Streets that once danced under his shadow now felt frozen, like the city had been put on pause. Makwanza's lieutenants disappeared from view, unsure of whether they were next or if they'd been betrayed by someone within. Rival groups didn't speak, but their silence felt heavy, like the kind that comes before a storm. Without their leader, the network he ruled began to crack. Roots stood open, and silence filled the ranks that used to echo with orders. The next few days showed that people who used to be loyal to Makwanza were starting to change. Some tried to get new bosses, others just disappeared, and some used threats and force to try to keep their points. Old enemies watched the fall of an empire they had feared for years, like vultures. Even though there wasn't a war going on yet, you could feel it building in the back alleys and through whispered conversations that happened behind locked doors. His did not just leave a body behind, it also made room for chaos. People in the neighborhood didn't know how to feel. They were torn between being relieved and having a deeper fear that covered every doorway like dust. Some people said prayers for peace, while others lit cigarettes and looked at the road where the blood had dried, not knowing if they were safe or if there was more danger ahead. The only thing that kept things in order for years was Makwanza's name. Every gate was locked, and everyone in line was quiet because of it. Fear had no face, no voice, and no clear owner. This made everyone feel exposed under a sky that seemed too wide all of a sudden. Anyone could get even at any time, from anywhere, and no one wanted to be the next body on the tar. 4 days later, hundreds of people showed up to the funeral, but the mood was anything but sad. It was tense, with plainclothes officers keeping an eye on things with their drawn. As the smooth, dark coffin made its way into the church, guards lined the walls and looked at each face for any sign of trouble. Outside,
and another thing, being in this funeral, you know, bro, it's not safe. It's not safe, bro. Like, I'm sure even the people that were here, they knew good to hey, nalana ko safe. Yeah, it's not safe, bro. Like, anything can happen, bro. During the funeral, anything can happen, bro. Imagine, bro. Why do we have to live like this? Why, bro?
Competitors drove around with their engines only half running, trying to figure out whether to show respect or claim territory. The smell of gasoline and incense combined in a way that made everyone's skin crawl. People spoke quickly and their eyes moved all the time. Every long silence felt like the click of a loaded held just out of sight.
Exactly.
After the last hymn, everyone left quickly, leaving new flowers on the grave and new rumors in the air. Different radio hosts in the province had different ideas about what his fall meant, and newspaper headlines screamed that the taxi business was in for a storm. Even though there were more police officers on the streets, drivers still taped shields to their doors because they knew that a badge wouldn't protect them from a bullet from 2 feet away. Kids were kept inside after dark, and store owners locked their doors early because the streets no longer belonged to one ruler, but to many hunters looking for new land. Every night, could be heard in the suburbs far away. They were small warnings and sharp reminders that the empty space he left would not last long. Not only did his end fear in Soweto, but it also opened the door to a flood of violence that no one was ready for. Captain Misando was the first officer on the scene who really had power, and he gave orders quickly and clearly. When he got out of the police car, there was already a crowd of people there. Their eyes were wide and their voices were low. The Audi TT was in the middle of the road, covered in bullet holes. It was still humming a little, as if it was shocked too. Everyone was told to go back, and Misando pushed the crowd behind yellow tape while his team moved in with cameras and gloves. Police started taking pictures of the broken glass, the torn leather, and the cold trail of that went through the seat. Every bullet hole they found told the same story. It was a warning that looked like a sentence. They found shell casings spread out on the tar. Each one was put there on purpose, not out of fear. Even though the wind picked up, there was still a heavy silence that hung over everyone. It was clear to anyone with trained eyes that this wasn't a random act. Everything that happened just now was planned. Officers started to talk to people on the street and knock on nearby doors. They didn't panic, though. They found something worse. Some people had even caught parts of it on their phones, but no one wanted to talk about it. People turned their heads, shut their doors, and whispered. Makwanza had control of the streets even after he That kind of silence isn't real. It's been made. Not only the made people afraid, they were scared to talk about the for fear of being seen. Soweto is aware of how quickly a story can turn into a The police had dozens of unofficial witnesses, but no one was willing to go on the record. At the scene of the crime, no fingerprints were found. There was no left behind. The license plate of the car that got away had not been caught on camera, and all of the traffic feeds were either too blurry or missing something. Police looked at hours of video, asked for tips, and even went to nearby auto shops to see if the black sedan had been there. But each lead ran into a wall, and each clue was lost. The attackers seemed to have disappeared into thin air to the public, but detectives knew it wasn't true. They hadn't really gone away. They had just hid their tracks very well. Misando told the press in a short statement that the investigation was still going on. But when they were alone, he told them they didn't have any suspects, a clear direction, or a motive they could prove. Inside the station, the case became a quiet obsession. Detectives pored over old files, rivalries, and known gang movements. They revisited past attempts on Makwanza's life, minor feuds he'd settled with force, and deals that had ended badly. Everything pointed to one truth. This was not a street-level. It had all the markings of an organized hit. There were whispers that a rival taxi boss, long exiled from Soweto, had returned and was looking to reclaim old ground. Others believed it was the work of a criminal network that had once partnered with Makwanza, until something broke behind closed doors. There was even talk of a contract paid for by multiple hands, each one with a reason to want him gone. But these were just theories. None of them came with proof, and no one was brave enough to confirm any of it.
But he showcased it as someone close to him, or it was someone he worked with before, you know. Shit didn't work out, so bro wanted revenge. But it's always someone that you know, you feel me? Someone that he knows. It's always gonna be someone that's close, bro. No way. But hey, this is what you expect if you doing this type of stuff, bro. This is what you need to expect.
The most unsettling possibility was the one detectives feared the most, an inside job. Someone had to know Makwanza would be alone that day. Someone had to know his usual guards wouldn't be with him. It was a detail only a few people would have known, and each one denied any involvement. But when investigators questioned them, their answers were too perfect, too clean. His closest men all told the same story, down to the minute. Where they were, what they were doing, how shocked they were when they heard. It didn't feel real, and that made it worse. Without a witness, without physical evidence, and without a confession, the case began to slip away. Days turned into weeks, and the media stopped calling. New crimes took over the headlines. Politicians stopped asking for updates, and slowly, the investigation in silence. The people who had once demanded justice began to fall quiet too. They had seen this before, cases that begin with noise and end with nothing. Soweto moved on, because it had to. But in the background, it kept watching for the next bullet, the next boss, the next body. The file still sits in the police station, thick, worn, and heavy. Inside are photos, interviews, diagrams, and timelines, pieces of a puzzle no one can finish. On the cover, in red ink, it still reads, "Open Case." But everyone knows that file is as cold as the that stained the seat of Makwanza's car. And somewhere in the city, the men who did it are still out there, still walking past the same ranks, maybe even riding in the same taxis. Their names are still unknown, their faces are still unseen, and their message, that even kings can be still echoes in the silence they left behind. Taxi violence in South Africa didn't start with Makwanza, and it didn't end with him either. For years, have exploded over routes, ranks, and money. The streets remember names like tombstones, each tied to a bullet or burned vehicle, and Makwanza, with all his power, was right in the middle of it. He knew the rules, played them better than most, and made sure no one touched his turf, until someone finally did. From the start of his rise, Makwanza made enemies. Not just rivals, but men who once stood beside him and felt betrayed. Drivers who lost routes, partners who lost money, and allies who felt discarded once he had climbed too high. As he grew stronger, his circle grew smaller, tighter, and more dangerous.
I'm in a 4x4, yeah, I got my wrist up.